say it louder. To those what?
Those pastors who are still planning to have Easter services in person.
Pastors
So
who
the pastors, I didn't understand your word. Okay, you have a very nice voice, but it's a little bit low and you're far back. I've had talks with the pastors, and most of the pastors agree. And it's a very complex subject, let's face it, for the obvious reasons I don't have to go into it. Most of the pastors agree that they are better off doing what they're doing, which is distancing. They feel that let's get this over with, and they want to get back to church so badly. I mean, can you imagine we have Easter Sunday, and I'm going to be watching Pastor Robert Jeffress, who's been a great guy. Did I tell you? He's been a great guy, and I'm going to be watching on a laptop. Now, a laptop is not the same as being in his church or being in another church. It's not. No matter what you say, you don't get to say, oh, isn't it wonderful? But I've done this for 3 weeks, and they've had tremendous, I let people know who it is. They've had the biggest audiences they've ever had. They have millions of people now watching, and people are really liking what they're hearing. So I'm going to be with, on Easter, Pastor, I don't even know if he knows it yet, but he will soon. I think he will in about 2 minutes. Pastor Robert Jeffress, and he's a terrific guy, a terrific man. I've gotten to know him very well. He's a man of great compassion. He loves our country, and I'm going to be with him on Easter meeting. I'm going to be with him watching on a laptop. Doesn't sound good, but it's one of those things. It cannot be church. I'm not going to get into it. It cannot be church. Most pastors and most people of faith, people that we listen to and respect and admire. Franklin Graham is a person I have great respect for. Most people, and who's done an incredible job in New York on Central Park, where they put up Samaritan's Purse. He's done an incredible job. The son of the late, great Billy Graham. His family is incredible. He's incredible. Franklin Graham, the job he's doing he loves to do it. He has such a passion, and that's why he's so good at it. He does it with incredible love. And he will tell you, and we're all saying we've got to get our country cured. I know there are some pastors and ministers and others that want to get together. And I have great respect for them. 2 of them I know. But I would say first, I'm a Christian, heal our country. Let's get healed before we do this. And if there's time to do that, we'll do it for hopefully the rest of our lives. Please.
Thank you. The Mercy and the Comfort seem to be underutilized in Los Angeles and New York. Is there any consideration either to sending the medical units into the cities to help the hospitals there, or to moving the hospital ships?
So the Mercy and the Comfort were sent when projections were much higher. And I say, Tony backed it up. Deborah made the statement. They said, you're not going to need these many rooms, but we wanted to be prepared. I mean, we had the ship. They did an incredible job. With the Comfort was supposed to be in maintenance for a period of 4 weeks, and they had it done in 3.5, 4 days. And it came up. And so we had it there. If there was a disaster from the standpoint of you needed all of I tell you, the Javits Center, Andrew will tell you, we were ready to go. It's incredible the job they did. But they're using less beds. This is a good thing, not a bad thing. They're using less beds. Now, Javits has been pretty busy over the last couple of days, and the death numbers are horrific. But you go back now, and you're finding they're going to start to come down very substantially, just based on the fact that the bed usage, the number of beds are much, much less. Much, much less. So the Mercy and the Comfort were there in case they needed them. Los Angeles, where you have the one, and New York, where you have the other. They just don't. Fortunately, we haven't hit numbers where they would have been used. They're always going to be sort of overflow because they're on the edges. They're not as convenient as certain places. But the people were ready, willing, and able. They were ready to go. They were going to do a great job. But fortunately, we don't need, just like we didn't need as many ventilators. When they were asking in New York for 40,000 ventilators, I had experts, these people, I listened to them, they said, you'll never need that many. And they were right. And New York now has and I dealt really well with Mayor de Blasio. We got him a lot of ventilators. We got Andrew a lot of ventilators. but we never felt you needed the numbers that you were talking about, and we were right on that. Now, with all of that being said, we have a lot of ventilators ready to go. We have almost 10,000 in the stockpile. That 10,000 can move rapidly. We can be within 24 hours almost anywhere. And hopefully we're not going to have to be, but it's really, this has been a great military operation. It hasn't all been military, because we're dealing with great companies. We have companies that are making masks, and we're all set up in the mask too. I just told you we have an order coming in soon, 500 million masks, 500 million. We have companies, you know the story with GM, or 3M, also GM, but 3M is doing a great job. I spoke to the CEO the other day, we settled it out. We had a dispute with them, and it's now all settled. And I think they're trying to show the country something, maybe me, but the country something. So we've done, I think, and not me, I'm not talking about this country, our country, the people that are doing it, Army Corps of Engineers, FEMA, these people sitting right here, people that we have in the back that are watching every word that we're saying, they've done a fantastic job. They really have done a fantastic job. Please.
Hi, Mr. President. I wanted to ask you a question about testing. You mentioned the impossibility of testing the entire American public. So has
Well, what do we have?
the Surgeon General.
What do we have, 350 million people? You're going to do this?
That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is priorities. And Dr. Birx has mentioned how there have been priorities in certain regional parts of the country. And I wanted to ask you specifically about one industry in particular, and that's food processing plants. Is there a priority to get testing at food processing plants all across the country?
Well, you're asking that because of what happened. It's a fair question, too. What happened in Denver? Because in Denver, I've never seen, I said, what's going on? We're looking at this graph where everything's looking beautiful and it's coming down, and then you got this one spike. I said, what happened in Denver? And many people, very quickly, and by the way, they were on it like so fast you wouldn't believe it. They knew every aspect. They had people going, not only testing, who did you see, where were you, how many people did you meet, were you out to dinner in somebody else's home, where were you, where did this number of people come from, they are totally on it. Now this just happened, I just saw it this morning. I'm looking at everything smooth, going down, topping out, then you have this one spike in Denver. It's like, where did this come from? So we'll be looking at that, and we don't want cases like that happening. This the kind of thing can happen. This is very complex. This is a very brilliant enemy. It's a brilliant enemy. They develop drugs like the antibiotics. You see it? Antibiotics used to solve every problem. Now one of the biggest problems the world has is the germ has gotten so brilliant that the antibiotic can't keep up with it. And they're constantly trying to come up with a new. People go to a hospital and they go for a heart operation, that's no problem, but they end up dying from problems. You know the problems I'm talking about. There's a whole genius to it. We're fighting, not only is it hidden, but it's very smart, okay? It's invisible. And it's hidden, but it's very smart. And you see that in a case like Denver. But I think we're doing well, and they're on Denver like you wouldn't believe. I came in this morning, it was a flurry. I said, what's going on? They said, Denver. I said, what happened at Denver? Because Denver was doing pretty well. And they've got that under control. But yeah, that would be a case where you do some very big testing. Peter?
Mr. President, we learned that more than 60 million Americans filed for unemployment over the past 3 weeks. It's Good Friday. It's payday. We are seeing troubling, paralyzing lines at food banks around the country. What do you say to those Americans in need right this moment?
Number one, I love them. Number two, we're working really hard. It wasn't their fault what happened. Sometimes they don't do a good job and they lose their job. That's one thing. This is a case where we take the strongest economy in the history of the world, which is what we had. More people working in the United States, Peter, than ever before. Almost, look at the numbers. 160 million people, almost, just short of 160. Excuse me. So we have the greatest economy we've ever had. And by the way, black unemployment, Hispanic unemployment, Asian unemployment, the best numbers we've ever had in virtually every way. And then you get hit like this. And it's traumatic. People that had great jobs, that went out to dinner, they didn't have any problems, they take their family, they were making good salaries, all of a sudden, you use the term cold turkey. It's cold turkey. They go from that to having no money and waiting for their checks, which are being processed very rapidly, but they have to go out and look for money. It's a terrible thing. All I say is we love them, we're working so hard, and they're going to be back. And I hope they're going to be back even stronger than before.
Let me ask you about that if I can, just to follow up then. You chose not to do a national stay-at-home order. Now that you say you want to reopen parts of the economy, what authority do you have to do that? Isn't it ultimately up to the states to do that?
No, it's really, the states can do things if they want. I can override it if I want. But the national stay-at-home, just so you understand, 95% of the country is stay-at-home. Like as an example, I was speaking with the great governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, the other day. He has a stay-at-home. A lot of people didn't even know it, but he had a stay-at-home. Some people reported Texas wasn't. He had a very strong stay-at-home. 95 to 96% South Carolina, as you know, has it, which at one point a week ago they didn't have. South Carolina, another great governor, McMaster. 95% of the country is covered. Now, the states that aren't, and again, constitutionally, from a federalist standpoint, if I thought there was a problem, if I saw a state with a problem, I would absolutely demand it. But they're doing great. And the states that aren't are states that have not had a big problem.
What authority do you have to reopen right now? The same way that it's up to the states to shut it down, it's up to them to reopen.
I have great authority if I want to use it. I would rather have the states use it. I would rather, and this is so shocking for me. A lot of people are saying, wow, he's really very reasoned, isn't he? A lot of people are shocked. They think I'd do it. I have absolute authority to use it. But so far, our relationship with governors and the job they're doing, I haven't had to do it. Would I do it if I saw a state that was out of control and they didn't have the stay-at-home policy? I would do it in a heartbeat. Jeff?
Mr. President, there's obviously a lot of interest in how you're going to make that decision.
It's a very big decision.
What?
I don't know that I've had a bigger decision than that when you think, right?
I would think.
I mean, think of that decision. Somebody said it's totally up to the president. I saw this one. It's totally up, and it is. I don't know that I've had a bigger decision. But I'm going to surround myself with the greatest minds, not only the greatest minds, but the greatest minds in numerous different businesses, including the business of politics and reason. And we're going to make a decision, and hopefully it's going to be the right decision. I will say this, I want to get it open as soon as we can. We have to get our country open, Jeff.
Can you say, sir, what metrics you will use to make that decision?
The metrics right here. That's my metrics. That's all I can do. I can listen to 35 people. At the end, I've got to make a decision. And I didn't think of it until yesterday. I said, this is a big decision. But I want to be guided. I'm going to be guided by them. I'm going to be guided by our vice president. I'm going to make a decision based on a lot of different opinions. Some will maybe disagree, and some I'd love to see it where they don't disagree. Will there be risks? There's always going to be a risk that something can flare up. There's always going to look at what's happening where countries are trying to get open and there's a flare up and they'll go. But I'd like the flare up to be very localized so that we can control it from a local standpoint without having to close. There's always a risk. This is genius that we're fighting. We're fighting this hidden enemy, which is genius, okay? It's genius. The way it's attacked so many countries at so many different angles. And I mean, you take a look at what's going on. And the greatest doctors in the world, I think they're close, by the way, but they haven't figured it out yet. Look what it's done to some people. I mean, some people it's grabbed, and it's a horrible way to go. You want to know the truth? It's a horrible, and then other people it hardly has an impact on. We talked about it. It's sniffles. It's less. They don't even know they had anything. And some people, I looked at New York this morning, and I look at what's happening and the amount of people that are dying, violently dying. It's a very tough adversary, but we're going to win, and we're going to win it. We're going to win it very decisively. I'm going to have to make a decision, and I only hope to God that it's the right decision. But I would say without question, it's the biggest decision I've ever had to make.
Follow up for the doctor, if I may, for Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx. The models, as I understand them, are based on social distancing continuing through May. Is that correct? And if you were to open the economy on May 1st or sometime during that month, would that impact the models in terms of the deaths that you expect?
Want to answer that?
We're taking turns tonight. Good. It's good. So the model, the IHME model, does state that it's through May. Every we've had these model discussions, haven't we, for weeks now. So the models are informed by the data, and you can see how much that model has shifted on the amazing work of the American people. So I think that's what we're evaluating right now. Remember when I talked yesterday, I've been in public health a long time. I have never, except for Ebola, where we worked very closely with the communities about specific issues, we've never taken a countrywide or a global-wide approach to mitigation. This is unprecedented. I will tell you there is nothing in the literature about specifically what to expect, and I think that's why the models continue to modify themselves based on what actually has happened with social distancing and hand washing and all of the pieces that the American people are doing, the decreasing, the closing of the bars, the closing of the restaurants, no communal eating. That was thought to be a very big issue in many of the other cultures that went through this virus. So the models continue to evolve based on the impact. And so therefore it makes it very difficult to interpret each component of social distancing and which ones are absolutely critical. Now there's a way to do that in multivariate analysis potentially, and I want everyone to understand there are states that are testing. There are states that are doing contact tracing. So I mean, I think sometimes we look at what New York is doing and Detroit, we forget that there's a Utah and a New Mexico and a North and South Dakota and a whole series of states that have been doing testing and contact tracing and have been testing at rates higher than that per capita rate that we all have discussed. So we're looking at that. What did they do? Where are the most vulnerabilities? Where are the outbreaks most likely to occur? And that's why I've been talking about nursing homes, because we do believe that there's a relationship between age and seriousness of disease. Not to say that there can't be young people with serious disease, but proportionally, it's a smaller piece with serious disease. And so when you have that kind of spectrum where the older and the more complicated, the higher the severity, you get the impression that there may be more asymptomatic in younger age groups, and that's where the antibody test comes in. So when you put all these pieces together, you're trying to understand where would be the first signals. So we have surveillance out there right now with the CDC's influenza-like illness. I hope you're all tracking that. It is showing these small changes. I think we can believe in that as a surveillance tool, married with their syndromic piece, giving us the insight about where to test and then where to proactively test in nursing homes and other vulnerable groups, because that has been the signal in a series of the states that have very, very low prevalence and incidence of disease. So that's the kind of factors we're putting all together to really define the best way forward. And we have superb roadmaps. I hope you all have seen them. There's been about 6 different roadmaps to opening that people have put online. And again, there's no literature that you can cite and said, well, we did this 20 years ago and what really worked. There isn't that. There's brilliant public health people giving us their insights.
Or the question is, because those are the models you've been using, if you do go with starting to open up the economy again on May 1st, doesn't that lead to more deaths?
Well, look at how much it changed with mitigation. And now we're looking at those state by state, and there's some states in there that are still in contact tracing. So we're looking at the impact of that model, and what that model predicted based on the type of contact tracing, less mitigation, more contact tracing. Are you getting what I'm talking about? Okay, so there are states that didn't stay-at-home orders, but we're doing contact tracing from outbreaks. So we're looking at them and how they have done, and we're looking at certainly what's happened in the big metro areas. And we're integrating all of that data together to make a plan going forward. So I can't tell you, because look at how much the model has changed in just a week. Remember, just a week ago, it was 80,000. Now it's 60,000. So, and the curves, I'm sure you're all watching it, the curves are getting much broader confidence intervals. There is still the dotted line, but the confidence intervals around the dotted line are getting bigger. When you see that, you know the model has a bit of instability. And so that's why Tony and I base a lot of our decision and discussion on cases and what physically is happening in that county and that state. At the same time, not ignoring the models, but integrating the models as one piece of our thought process. Do you want to come up here and say what you think about models? Okay.
Dr. Brooks, you have this on the
I just want to say that, you talked about, couldn't it lead to death? Meaning, you open up, could lead to death, and you're right. But you know what? Staying at home leads to death also. And it's very traumatic for this country. But staying at home, if you look at numbers, that leads to a different kind of death perhaps, but it leads to death also. So it's a very big decision. As I say, it's the biggest decision I'll ever make. All right, we'll do a couple more, we'll go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before you came out here, you said one of the last people that you talked to was Governor Cuomo.
Yes.
And at his news conference today, he said that he was asking you to use the Defense Production Act to require companies to make more tests, to streamline testing. Is that something that you would consider, because you've considered it with ventilators?
Well, the other side seems to keep using that, and I have used it. I've enacted it, you do know, and I've used it. Some people thought viciously. Just ask a couple of companies. If you want, you can just look up the names. And I'm surprised that he would have said that. We actually have great tests. We have others under development. You don't need full testing, as the doctors have been talking about ad nauseum. So I would be surprised that he would have said that, meaning it that way. If he did, I'd have a much different type answer. Go ahead.
Well, didn't talk about it over the phone.
We talked about testing, yeah, we did talk about testing, and one of the things I did was I put the two doctors in charge of that call. I said, you know what, Andrew? I have two very talented people standing here. We're getting ready to go on. Let me put them and let me have them talk to you. And they talked to him really at length, and I think by the time they finished, he understood what we were saying. He understood it very clearly. Okay?
One more question, please. You've talked a lot this week about holding the World Health Organization responsible for its response to the coronavirus. I'm curious if you've given any more thought to holding China financially responsible for the part that it played and the economic toll that it's taking on the American people.
Yeah, I understand the question very well. Look, nobody has done to China or treated China as strongly as I have. Use the word strongly. As you know, we've reported on it. Billions and billions of dollars is flowing into our treasury because of what I've done with China. I think it's a very sad thing that happened. And I think if people knew, including the World Health Organization, and I do believe they knew, but they didn't want to tell the world. And we're going to get to the bottom of it. And we'll have reports on all of this, and we are not happy about it. But I wanted to leave the World Health War later, and I can tell you that we're constantly in touch with China. We're talking to China, and we've expressed how we felt. We're not happy about it. We're not happy about it at all, Kristen. Okay, one or two more. Yeah, Jim.
Mr. President, we hear from a lot of people who see these briefings as sort of happy talk briefings.
I'm
And,
happy to talk today.
and some of the officials paint a rosy picture of what is happening around the country. If you look at some of these questions, do we have enough masks? No. Do we have enough tests? No. Do we have enough PPE? No.
Why would you say no?
Do we have enough
The
medical
answer is
equipment?
yes. I think the answer is yes. Who said no to that?
I'm saying this.
No, you're saying no. But who said
We hear-
no? When you asked me, do we have enough
we hear
masks?
from
Yes.
doctors, we hear from
No, you
health
didn't say
experts.
that. You said, do we have enough masks?
Does the country-
Yes.
does-
Do we have enough tests? Yes. Plus, we're developing new tests.
No.
Do we have enough ventilators? Yes. Do we have enough hospital beds? Yes. We built 20,000 hospital beds. We have enough hospital beds. Go ahead, Jim, let's go.
What do you say to, I mean, you watch the coverage.
You know what I
I'm
say?
watching a lot of the coverage.
Well, a lot of it's
These
fake
doctors,
news.
no,
A
no.
lot of it's
it's not.
fake news. A lot of it's fake news. Let me just
When the doctors
The-
and the
the
medical
governors-
people are
the governors reported-
we don't have enough tests, we don't have
The
enough
governor,
masks.
yeah, depending on your area, they always say that, because otherwise you're not gonna put them on. Let me just tell you something, the governors have said, last night, they had a group of governors, 14 governors, they were together someplace, and they said, it's been unbelievable what's happened, we've been totally responsive. Ventilators, everyone has the ventilators they need, to a point where we're getting calls from foreign countries saying, you have all the ventilators, can we get some? And we're gonna try and help some of these countries. These people have done an incredible job. This is not happy talk. Maybe it's happy talk for you, it's not happy talk for me. We're talking about death. We're talking about the greatest economy in the world. One day I have to close it off. And we did the right thing, because maybe it would have been 2 million people died, instead of whatever that final number will be, which could be 60, could be 70, could be 75, could be 55. Thousands of people have died. There's nothing happy about it, Jim. This is sad talk. This is the saddest, these are the saddest news conferences that I've ever had. I don't like doing them. You know why? Because I'm talking about death. I'm talking about taking the greatest economy ever created. We had the greatest numbers we've ever had in almost every aspect of economics, from employment to companies. Look at the airlines, they were having the best year. Now all of a sudden we have to save them. Okay? There's no happy talk, Jim. This is the real deal. And I've got to make the biggest decision of my life. And I've only started thinking about that. I mean, you know, I've made a lot of big decisions in my life. You understand that. This is by far the biggest decision in my life, because I have to say, okay, let's go. This is what we're going
Doctors,
to
when
do.
you have hospital administrators,
But you have many doctors that say, unbelievable job. I watched this morning, and I watched a certain network, and it wasn't Fox, and you had doctors saying that we've done an incredible job. You just read off these no. Well, we have ventilators, we have equipment, we have beds. How about beds? I mean, Governor Cuomo just told me a little while ago, he's got plenty of beds. In fact, they're having a hard time filling Javits Center. We built them 2,900 beds. So that's not a fair question.
when you're
Jim, look,
sanitizing
Jim,
masks, and you're talking about reusing PPE, obviously you don't have enough.
No, excuse me. We have masks, we have everything. And we were trying to get ready for the surge. And a lot of people said it will never happen. Deborah said it, you'll never need that many beds. They said we needed 40,000 ventilators, 40,000, it's like building a car. 40,000 ventilators. People said, I felt it too. You'll never need that many. Guess what? We're the envy of the world in terms of ventilators. Germany would like some. France would like some. We're going to help countries out. Spain needs them desperately. Italy needs them desperately. Mexico needs them desperately. He asked me last night, would it be possible to get 10,000 ventilators? Within a short period of time, I'll be able to help out Mexico. No, Jim, just the opposite of your question. It's not no, it's yes. We're in great shape. And you know what? What's happening now is those numbers are horrible. But take a look at the number of beds. We have beds available all over New York. New York really being the epicenter. New York has experienced something that has been absolutely horrific. I saw Hart's Island yesterday. I saw those people being buried yesterday. Fortunately, we have the beds, and you can speak to Mayor de Blasio, you can speak to Governor Cuomo. People can't even believe the job we've done. They can't even believe it. And I give tremendous credit to the military. There's been a military operation with private people. But wait a minute, wait. I give tremendous credit to our military, to the Army Corps of Engineers, to FEMA, to these people. The job they've done is incredible. And you shouldn't be asking that kind of a question, Jim, honestly. Okay, look, I really don't believe you're that bad. You shouldn't be asking that kind of a question. You should say, you know what? It's been really incredible what's been happening. Jim, nobody's asking. What governor, let me ask you this. What governor, we have more tests than anybody in the world. We have virtually every country in the world calling us, asking us, how do we get these tests that you have? Your
Clowns.
testing is the best in the world. How do we get it? They've done a fantastic job. And when you ask a question like that, it's very insulting to a lot of great people. Okay, one more, please. Please, go.
Thank you, Mr. President. You may have seen how Sweden has responded to the pandemic. The schools are open.
Welcome to The Lead. I'm Jake Tapper. You have been listening to President Trump and the White House Coronavirus Task Force during their briefing. It has been going on for more than 2 hours now, so we are going to resume our regular programming, and this is The Lead, and I am Jake Tapper. The death toll
No, keep going.
globally has now surpassed...
No, keep going, please.
According to Johns Hopkins University.
I don't want to hear you. I want to hear what comes out of the horse's mouth.
And more than 18,000
You
of those
fuckers.
are in the United States. The death toll at this moment, a horrific
No.
22 in the United States. This time last week, that number
I don't want you telling me how to flatten curves anymore.
11,000 of our neighbors and friends and family members have been lost in this
Come
country
on now.
just in the last week due to this pandemic.
It's stupid.
There are 1.6 million cases.
Clowns to the left of me. Jokers to the right. Here I
In the
am.
United States. In fact,
Wonder
New York
Woman.
State alone now has more reported cases than any other country in the world. That, of course, means you have to believe China and Russia and Iran and other countries that aren't necessarily reliable when it comes to accurate data.
All that numbers, because nobody thought the American people could be so disciplined. Nobody thought it was possible. And I
CNN.
guess when they watched us appear every day, and they watched other people, and they listened to their representatives and governors, nobody thought that the American people could be so disciplined. They've been unbelievable. And because of that, so you have a minimum number of 100,000, and then you had the 2.2 number, that if we did nothing, if we did just kept working, everybody go to work, people
Hey,
would be
Precious.
dropping dead on the subways. No. If we would have lost 1 million people, take the 2.2 million and cut it in half. Cut it in more than half. Make it 1 million people, okay? Now take that number and cut it in half. Make it 500,000 people. That's if we did nothing, right? It's unacceptable. It's too many people. So we spent more money on stimulus? Who cares by comparison? You take 2.2, you cut it in half, you cut it in half, you cut it in half, you keep cutting it in half. I don't care what number you choose. 500,000, 400,000. Well, we're going to have, we were talking 50, 60, 65, maybe. Maybe. But if we would have done what one country tried, and it has been very tough for them, you know that, very, very nasty, very tough. But if we would have done that here, and again, you got to remember, UK tried it. And I was
That is
surprised
President
that
Donald
election-
Trump addressing the media after a meeting with his coronavirus task force in the United States. The numbers are very stark. 16,736 people have died of COVID-19 since February 29th, with fatalities in almost every state in the U.S. Most of those fatalities in New York. Hello, I'm Hannah Thibodeau. This is CBC News Network. Thanks for joining us. Here are your headlines. The Prime Minister says he has no plans to invoke the Emergency Measures Act and hopes he never
Alright, so I tried to get the tail end of it. CBC got us to a certain point. CNN cut it short. And then I went to the internet. Probably should have just been tracking it on the internet because this guy, it's important what comes out of his mouth because you can piece together everything that needs to be assembled. Do you see what's going on? Does anybody see what's going on here? The power grab? I wonder. So it's time for us to have another talk. Welcome to Tea in Space. My name's Tom, and this is Space. Coming to you live from the Beaumont Motel in Penticton, British Columbia, Canada. Room 240, if you want to self-isolate with me. Not a lot of takers on that. I got just a mild form of COVID, no big deal. Anybody want to take a chance with me? 'Cause I ain't that bad. It's not that bad. It's not like COVID-20. Now that one. Holy fuck, that one's gonna really do some damage. Yeah, we're working on it right now. Our governments are working on it. Okay, so, what's going on? Lockdown, eh? No one's allowed to, get together in groups at the bars, churches. Wow. When does this sort of thing usually happen in history? Have we gone back in history? New York going through the biggest catastrophe ever. Always New York, why? And now that we're focused on COVID, how many people died of this fucker before we were testing? And how many people die every day? And how many people can we find if we look? If we want to increase the numbers in the stats, we need only to look more. But when you're not looking, then it's the same old thing, right? So, government, power, how do you maintain power? How do you gotta be quick. You gotta be clever to keep the power. Hey, I got an idea. How about we get everybody to stay 6 feet away from each other, which means they'll stay at least 6 feet away from us, right? Canadian PM on Emergencies Act. Not necessary now. These people that claim to have our best interests at heart. Do you? No, you don't. I know. You've been playing the game for a long time. Your father played the same game, right? Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The ladies love him. Don't be fooled. He is a good-looking man, though, isn't he? But we got probably one of the best-looking leaders for our country. Oh, ain't he? Yeah, he's a good-looking guy. Not a big fan of countries, not a big fan of leaders. No one's given me a real reason to believe in the system. 49. I'm 49 years old. Now that's not that old, right? It's like if I'm planning on living to 100, like my grandmother, at least 100, I'm only halfway there. But you see a lot during that time, right? What do you see? See more of the same, but it gets worse. Control. How have they done it in the past? Jobs. Taxes. How do you keep a population under control? Loans. Give them more loans from your banks. Keep them under your thumb. Well, you remember you owed us this. Yeah, we the president is working on a deal with Mexico. We're just gonna have to top it up, but they owe us and they know it. So that gives us power. It's another way we can maintain power. Keep people under our thumb. Mexico. Canada. What are they doing to Canada? Borders. United States loves their borders. Trump says today something like, now everybody's understanding how important borders are. So he said something like that. Those aren't the exact words. Can you imagine how easy things would be without borders? Can you imagine how easy trade would be without borders? You take a look at, a state like Washington. That's, a big portion of Washington's on the Canadian border. Can you imagine how good Washington would do if we had no borders between the BC, British Columbia, and Washington? Can you imagine what we could actually do if there weren't any borders there? Could you imagine? No, we can't imagine that. Then the bad guys would come in. Or how does it work with borders? Are we keeping the bad guys in, or are we keeping the bad guys out? Both? Sounds like you're shooting yourself in the foot. Sounds like you're shooting yourself in the foot, bud. So what are we going on here in Canada? Almost a month now, being locked down. Friend of mine, he has a motel business in town, heavily dependent on tourism. So they totally shut tourism down for the whole summer. So he went to another way of getting through this time, and he's going with monthly rentals for the year. So it's good for me, I guess, but is it? I don't know. Seems to be a lot of shenanigans around. What's an essential service? Can someone tell me that? You say it's essential, then it's essential? I don't think that's a reasonable way to come up with a conclusion like that. Seeing that there's only a few of you making those decisions for the rest of us. Hey, there's my bus. Buses are free in Penticton now. For the last 2 weeks. Just heard that yesterday, from a friend of mine down the way. That's good. I don't have a car, so I guess I'll take the bus I wonder how effective this 6-foot rule is going to be on the bus or the subway. People who have to take public transportation that you so graciously set up for us, government. Okay, so who loses? Not Bill Gates. That fucker always wins. Who loses? Well, not Trump or his family or the judges he's appointed. They all win. Who loses? Well, not the liberal government, because eventually they'll get the power again, because that's the way they like doing it. Back and forth, back and forth. Bad guys, good guys. Now I'm the bad guy, you're the good guy. Okay, I'll play it. For now. Until they start figuring it out. And then I'm going to start pointing my fingers right back at you. You wonder why there are so many bad guys in prison, like these people going down for, rape charges and things like this, and corruption of all kinds, campaign finance, fraud, and shit like that. Just underhanded, I'm trying to screw you kind of mentality. These guys are going to jail, right? Associated with Trump and people like him. Lots of people, not even associated with Trump, they're going to jail. Why? Well, because the bad guys that keep the shit show going are having a hard time pointing the finger at each other now. Because now we're getting smarter, aren't we? I think we are. We gotta be getting smarter here. Because these guys have been playing us for fucking chumps. For a long time. Who's in government right now? Who the fuck is in government right now? In the U.S., who's in charge? Who do you think? Who do you think's in charge in the United States of America? Who do you think's in charge? Tony! Tony, who do you think's in charge? What about you, Vinny? We're in charge! Right? Vinny and Tony are in charge. Of course they are. Kinda. Until we get wise and we say, hey guys, we got the numbers, so maybe you can back down? And we appreciate you getting all legitimate and whatnot, owning businesses and shit like that and being in politics and such. But maybe it's time for you to fucking sit over there. Away from the game for a while. Take a break. Retire. Let someone else come in that knows what generation they're living in. And who has a heart. I prefer someone who's smart and who has a heart. How's that? Both. Okay, not one or the other. How do we do that? Well, we work together. Maybe. We do it on our own. Make these decisions on our own. Government, I don't see there being any real reason why we have, White House and, where? In the middle of fucking nowhere in the United States. Washington, D.C.? Well, it's not in Washington State, I can tell you that. Do we need Ottawa? Do we need this Parliament building? Do we need all these Do we need City Hall? Honestly. Because it just seems like City Hall, all they're good for is creating new paid parking spots. I hope it doesn't come to this end of the town. That would suck. That whole parking lot right there, it's free. Government's only giving us less freedom because they keep adding on to the pile. Well, here's a law I think we should follow now. Heavy fines. And, hey, did I mention all the jobs I was creating? Yeah, there's a guy that comes around and he scans your license plate and he marks your tires, and we're creating really good fucking jobs, aren't we? And did you know that Walmart's hiring? Walmart's hiring. Yeah, essential service. Who said that? How can Walmart be open? It's the first one that should be closed. Don't you think? Oh, but you can't beat their prices. Yeah, and you can't beat their prices. And the people, they really need to eat. The people really need to eat, so we need to keep those places open. We'll make sure everybody's fed in our town. You could take your Walmart and shove it up your ass. Hey, you got a Walmart? I know it's a big store, but you can shove it up your ass, can't you? No? Okay, fair enough. I don't think anybody should be subject to that kind of pain. So how about you just close it? How about we use that building for something else? How about we open up a market on that end of the town? And everybody around the village, everybody around Penticton who grows, they can come and sell their fresh produce and things that they've made. Oh, that sounds like a good idea, but I don't know if it can work. Oh, it works. It works. We got one of the best markets in the entire Okanagan Valley. That's true. Penticton Market takes up like 3 blocks of Main Street and then some. I wonder if we can do that full time. Have markets. Less restrictions. More markets. More people selling stuff. More options. Because when we have options, we all do better. Remember? When we had options? Oh, you like the Walmart, do you? Do you? Okay, you might be missing a few facts. Do you want to talk about Walmart or you want to talk about Bill Gates? Who do you want to talk about? There's a lot to talk about. I can keep talking. Or not. Stimulus packages. Loans. Insurance. Insurance for your business that you didn't have, just in case something happened, like a catastrophe. And now you can't. You didn't have that insurance? What the fuck? What were you thinking? How many insurances am I supposed to have? Insurance guy. Until the next catastrophe comes that you don't cover. To insurance. To all the lawyers that work for insurance. This is why you don't have friends, buddy. It's worth thinking about. It's worth thinking about. Okay, let's say you knew that you had a shitty job and that you weren't really contributing to the overall good of your community. Let's just say you had a job like that. But it paid really well. But you knew it didn't really help anybody, except for the rich. The people just try to get away with shit. Get away with paying taxes, get away with whatever it is. Say you have a job like that. Say you're working, like, say you're an accountant. Yeah? Because there's lots of accountants out there. Say you're an accountant and you're just kind of you're the in-between guy. You're the fixer. Company comes to you, you know the loopholes. That's a privileged service, isn't it? Are you giving that service to everybody? Or are you just waiting for the highest dollar amount to come in? What are you waiting for? Well, I should get paid appropriately. Yeah. We all should, right? Fair, being fair. Wonder how lawyers would do when it came to maybe going back to trade. Which I don't really see there being any other option for most of us. Trade seems to be the only thing that works. Trade. Like, you can have nothing and be able to work your way up to having something, or at least participating, or what? Feeding yourself, clothing yourself, maintaining a roof over your head. What does one have to do? Okay, you gonna plug back into a bank? What if they let you have a bank account again? You gonna plug back in one of those big banks? You gonna plug back into a failed government? I'm a liberal, so I always vote liberal, and my family's always voted liberal, so I'm a liberal, and I'm a Catholic. So these are the boxes I live in. Really? Boring. You're the most fucking boringest, that's a word, look it up, person I've ever talked to. And it's okay. We can be boring, I suppose. Yeah, why are we here? You know? Why are we here? Let's just skate through this one. Let's not kick up any waves here. So we're into flattening curves, aren't we? Let's not create any more waves than we really need to. What do you think, Vinny? So, these are the way things are. I think we all know it. Now, how do we proceed? Are we going to start from scratch? I don't think that's a possibility. But I think if we keep the good things and we throw out the shitty things, we do a lot better. And some of you might have to sit to the sidelines because you've given it a go. You've implemented antiquated systems that make absolutely no sense in this current environment. Your focus is on the economy, which is crazy. That should just be a bonus, really. When you're doing the right thing, the economy goes up. You focus on community economy, the world economy goes up. Community starts here, right? It starts in your neighborhood. It starts within walking distance. Oh, I can't fix it. I can't do anything about it. I'm just gonna go along with whatever they say. No, you can't anymore. Okay? Or you can, I guess. Just I don't know. Stay at the sidelines with these guys and have no opinion then. There's only going to be a few people like that have to stay to the sidelines. Because they've had the chance. Or they're not interested. Or they're ignorant. Fair. Okay, so if you're ignorant and you care not to have the information, the pertinent information, What information do you have, people in government, that I don't have? What information, people in government, or lawyers, or doctors, do you have that I don't have? Oh, I don't know what that Latin term means? Yeah, I can look it up. So you use a Latin term or you use some big fancy fucking word to explain whatever it is that you're trying to explain. Are you following me now? Are you following me? You're not following? Okay, well, obviously I've lost you at some point, and now you have to leave it to the experts. Which is us. The experts. No. No, I don't want to leave it to you, because you're not experts. If you claim to be a wise man, it surely means you do not know. Kansas. So, I get no play on YouTube. Really. I got 7 subscribers. I've been blocked so many ways in so many different fashions. What do? Do you keep going? Sure, why not? What else you gotta do? I know a couple of people are listening. And I know a lot of those people are doing whatever they can on their end to make some sense out of this shit show. To talk about it. Or we're talking about it now. What are we talking about? The shit show? Quinn, you said that you miss me. I'm here. I'm here all the time. How do you miss me when someone's here all the time? I'm like fucking here. If the focus wasn't on COVID-19, coronavirus, if the news didn't focus on it, if the politicians didn't focus on it, if it wasn't focused on it, it wouldn't be news. It would be, this is what's happening. Flu's going around. It's a pretty bad one. Attaches to your lungs. If you have pre-existing conditions, that might not be good for you. Old people die from it. Old people die from a lot of shit. A lot of shit. Complications all the time. Is this one more aggressive? Maybe. Doesn't seem like many people are dying from it. Seems like most people who get it get well from it. Get better. It's shitty. Okay, so why is this news? Because people made it news. There are people who spend huge swaths of money to ensure that the message that they want out is put out. And they shut down a whole world. These people who own the networks, the governments, they shut down an entire world. Because they say. How many more businesses are going to be lost? How many more dreams are going to be smashed? How many more people thinking that they still live in a free world are going to continue getting loans from the big banks, going through the same shit show over and over, repeating itself endlessly? Okay, well, that can repeat endlessly, that's for sure. The rich win. Homelessness is still an issue. 2 years. 2 fucking years I've been working on homelessness. Working on it. What can we do in my town, in my country, in the world? Well, the only thing that I can think of is that we be less greedy. So, is that where we're going back to? Because then that means that we have homelessness still. Why? Why are suicides up? Why are we not focused on governments occupying other countries? Now, where are they? What's going on here? We're seeing a lot of these governors and presidents and specialists making us more informed. We're seeing them every day because of this new war that they've created. The war. Oh, that's it. It's a brilliant virus. That's what the President of the United States said today about the coronavirus. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant virus. Comes at all angles. It's brilliant. What a devastating, horrible situation we find ourselves in here in the United States. This war that we're fighting. It always has to be a fucking war. Why? Because we're at war. And we've implemented the military to help combat it. Medical military. And we're just going to have a lot more control over everybody. Data is going to be the new currency. Data. You got some data? I got some data. Right here. You want some data? I don't want to show you again. This place has got cameras all the fuck over. Come on over. I'll show you the data I got. To data! If you want a new job... Hey, if I was a career counselor in high school, and a student came up to me and said, hey, what are the most important jobs right now? I'd say data. Go work for your local government to collect data on the rest of us. You'll be highly satisfied in that job. Because now you're going to be a part of the elite. Collecting data. Wasn't me. I was collecting data on it the whole time. What? Alright, I'll take the chip. Where does it go? Forehead or the wrist? Right here. Right here. Just a barcode. Scan it. We good? Now you can track me all the time, right? You didn't need that. You could track me anytime you wanted to. Apparently, there's technology that if someone wanted to hear this conversation, All they would have to do is point the satellite this way, and they can hear it. Well, you know what? That doesn't really affect me. You want to know why? 'Cause I got no secrets. What? How can you not have secrets? I don't have any secrets. I've shared everything. This is me. 2 years on Facebook. 2.5 years. Go back to Tom Cowles. Not just the Tommy Glenn Cowles, man. Tom Cowles is where it started. Way back in the day. Everything's there. So, well, how do you think you're going to make money off of this? You're not going to obviously make money. Well, no. I haven't. The only thing that I've made money on recently, and that was probably about 2 months ago, was a painting I sold to New York. That's it. That's it. So what are you saying? What I'm saying is that I don't do this for money. You see, I made a pact with myself when I was young to always be truthful, honest, and to find out what the truth was. I made a pact with myself. I have to. There's no other thing that I'm interested in. I want to know how things work, and I got a feeling I do. To the point where I stop and say, I have no fucking clue. Do you understand now? No one? Good. Alright, so we're at the same spot. No one knows anything. Well, that's good. I like that. That's a good place to start. Let's find out how much more we don't know. Well, I'd go on talking, but I don't know. This coronavirus pandemic's really getting me down. Might need a nap just to get over it. I'll be okay. For all those who are sick, that sucks. And for all those who are dying, it happens. It happens. It's part of what we signed up for. Didn't we? When we came here, we knew that these physical bodies would die eventually. They should be lasting a lot longer. $900 years? What happened? What happened? How much control did you try to take over, human? Within your own body? How much? When did you think that you knew more than the body knew? That was probably the time where you stopped living to those, 900,000 year. There's a lot of reasons. But now our average lifespan is about 100. I think pretty soon, though, we can get up to 2 if we eat right. If everybody's eating locally. Can you imagine if everybody had a great diet? Like a really good diet? Did I say diet right? If everybody had a good diet, and if everybody was eating the right things, if their alkaline levels were up, their pH levels were down, fruits, vegetables, eating all the colors, essentially. All the colors. I wonder how that would affect us. Positively, I would imagine. Worldwide effects. Just by taking care of ourselves. Be a light unto the world. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.